Hello and welcome to the Live Life Driven episode of the Answers Yes podcast. Thanks for tuning in. I don't know about y'all out there, but we're having a wonderful winter storm today, enjoying it, reveling the moment of the snow coming in. And I hope everybody's doing good. I appreciate all your comments on the shows. We had Renee on recently from Austin, Texas with her cosmetic company starting from the ground up, and had a lot of feedback on her success. And we wish her well through the holiday season. I'm sure it's going to get ticking up there. You know, I've had a lot of great guests on my show and people of interest for many others. And, although I'm very interested in people's stories, not often does it resonate exactly with me and my background and what inspires me. And I've been trying to spend a lot less time on social media these days, but once in a while I get hooked and I run across a story or two that's worth looking at or digging into. And today is the reason why I've got the special guest on the phone. I've got Matt Novakovich on the phone today. How are you, Matt?
I'm doing well.
Did I hack your last name up, or was that correct?
You got it phonetically. It's Novakovich, but you certainly can speak English, so you got all the letters in there, right?
Now, you're up in Alaska, right?
Yep, Anchorage, Alaska. We two are getting about a foot of snow yesterday and today.
Yeah, it feels good. So is this your first snow of the winter, or have you guys been getting hit already?
It started good. But, for me, we have massive season changes. We have hot summers, we have crazy falls, and then when winter hits, I want it to be all winter. So for me, the more snow, the better, because I want it to just dictate the sports and dictate the activities for me right now, which might be cross-country skiing or whatever you might do in the snow. So
I love it. I like how that's something that you cherish and look forward to. I had one of the best trips of my life up to Alaska. I went up there, did some ice climbing outside of Anchorage, just north of there, which was incredible. I toured the ski resorts. But then I went on a 4-day dog mushing tour up into the backcountry. And it was just an incredible experience. It was 50 below. I had a team of dogs. My guide had a team of dogs. And we went up there to see that bus where McCandless passed away at. And we spent the days out there in those huts. And it was 50 below with the wind chill. And, I got back from there. It's just it's something I'll never forget. Just a pretty incredible part of the world.
For sure.
Yeah. So I would love to hear, the reason why I'm calling and wanted you on the show is because you just posted a very interesting story that's extremely compelling to hear the details of. But can you give us some background on your athletic life and why I call it an extreme sport athlete, but, you're an adventure seeker and you've got a lot of neat things to look at in what you've done. Can you walk us through that a little bit?
Sure. I'll kind of give you my height and stats kind of goes along, I think, with the story and why I've chosen what I like to do. I'm 5'9". In high school, I was small. I was a good 110 pounder as a high school freshman, and loved basketball, football. Kind of wanted to be doing what my dad did, that he did in college and whatnot, with the skill sports, like whether it be golf or tennis or basketball or football. But I kind of lacked that size necessary for those sports, and so I immediately gravitated into trying out to be good at running. Or cross-country skiing was really popular up here in Alaska. And so those are what I did. And pretty soon I realized I was never going to make the basketball team. Although I felt like I was skilled, I was good, I liked it. I found myself doing the sports where you're out alone on the trails or on a treadmill, and you're just in solitude of yourself, building cardio fitness. Sum it up pretty quickly. I went through high school, and I still kind of kept my small frame. I was never a great runner in Alaska. To not be on varsity means you're probably pretty bad. I didn't make varsity till I was a senior. My senior year in cross-country running and skiing and track, I made varsity. And that's when I got my first taste of success but failure, because I didn't make it to the state championship meet. Not to make a long story too long, but that's when I got excited about it. It was right after the season was over, and I thought, man, I was close to making it. And I went down to Brigham Young University to visit the campus. That's where I wanted to go to college. And I knew I wasn't good enough to run cross country there, but I met the coach and I asked him, I know I'm not there yet. I don't have a lot of support from my coach back in high school and recommending me to be to make it on your team. But I wanted the training program. So he gave it to me. And if I was running 30 miles a week as a high school athlete, theirs was a protocol of 70 to 80 miles. And that's what the athletes that are good enough to be on the Division I level were. And I did it, and I was able to not get injured as I started up in the mileage, and I got good enough to walk onto the team at BYU, and I ran there for full 5 years, and I had a pretty strong collegiate season. I ran the steeplechase, and it was fun. I enjoyed it. I didn't go to nationals, but I was good enough to travel with the team, and it was one of the greatest experiences of my life.
Yeah.
After college, my running segued. I thought maybe I'd try marathon running. I ran 3 or 4 of those, and that didn't quite click for me. I didn't like the volume, and I wasn't having crazy success. And next thing I know, I found myself cycling, and I did that for 9 years. I was trying to be a professional cyclist. I was good enough to ride as a support rider for a professional team. I had a few opportunities to be a Cat 1 cyclist and help support some of the great names in cycling. And that was a fun thing for me. That segued into another sport switch where I went into mountain running. There's a really popular race up in Alaska. It's a world-class race called Mount Marathon. Mm-hmm. It's only 3 miles long, but you run up, you run down. It has a lot of crowd. It's 80,000 people come into the town to watch the race because it's exciting. I jumped into that race on kind of a bet that I wouldn't get in the top 10. And if I lost the bet, the loser had to wear a Speedo in the next race. There's a big city race, and that was going to be the prize to the winner, to the other person have to do that. I ended up getting 10th, and I got that mountain running excitement, and I spent the next 5 years trying to figure out a way to win that race. And in 2012, I won it. And that was probably my first breakthrough where people thought this is pretty interesting. And I could kind of start thinking that I was climbing at a professional mountain level. And to specify on those, we're not using ice axes. It's not technical climbing. It's like up ridge lines, just steep enough that it's very steep, but not so steep that you'd have to have equipment.
Right.
But so steep that if you come off the ridge off to the side, you'd be going off a cliff. So there's a lot of route learning and knowing the correct ways to go. That segued into me going down on a whim and doing a Spartan race for the first time ever. My brother was military, my brother-in-law. He was special forces, and he's like, man, there's this cool thing called Spartan race. It's like a cross between distance running, mountain running, but there's these obstacles. It's like boot camp obstacles and barbed wire, and you carry a bunch of stuff. And I was like, this sounds pretty cool. So I went down to Virginia, and I knew nothing about it. And that was a quick start into something I didn't know was about to take up the next 5-6 years of my life. Anyone who knows my story knows what happened that day. I was up against Hobie Call, who had never lost a Spartan race, and I ended up winning that race. It was very climbing intense race. It was in Virginia on a mountainside, and I was probably started out in 10th. I was struggling through the obstacles, but I was just kind of watching what the guys were doing. I luckily made my spear throw, so I didn't have to stop and do the penalty, and I was able to stay close enough to the leaders, and I found myself in third and second, and I found myself, hucking up the mountain next to Hobie, and we're both carrying a log on our back, and he's looking at me, he's like, holy cow, and he's like, man, he said to me, my calves are starting to cramp, and I said, oh yeah, sorry, it sucks. And I said, what's your name? He's like, looked at me like, what are you talking about? I'm Hobie.
Yeah.
Like, oh, cool, nice to meet you. And I ended up winning that race by several minutes, and then found out it was a pretty big deal to the Spartan community. They were segueing onto the NBC TV show, and I was able to travel all around the world on Spartan's dime and pick up some fun sponsorships that gave me enough income to kind of do the dream I wasn't seeking, which was to get paid to be an athlete. And I did that for several years. And then that almost brings us full circle to the last couple of years. I've just been still training and trying to figure out my next challenge. And lately I've been hitting it hard with biathlon training. I've been training with an Olympic level coach, and that's where you shoot the 22 rifle. It's a precision rifle, and then you cross country ski in between. And that's what's been fun about that is during the COVID time, the sport's so expensive to get into with the rifle and the coaching and whatnot that it really locked me in to start eating really well. To make sure my diet's good, make sure my exercise levels are high. And for me, it was enough inspiration, just that alone, to get to a point now where I think I might arguably say I'm fitter than I ever was when I was winning Spartan races. So I'm kind of excited for the next race where I go out and kind of prove it. So that's sorry for the long background, but that kind of sums us up as quick as I can.
No, it's a great background. What I love about your story is that clearly you've pushed yourself over the years to be the best at what you can be without necessarily knowing what that title looks like, as you gave in your Spartan example. By the way, no easy feat to go win a race as you're learning how to do those obstacles, right? I mean,
Right.
One thing I learned in Spartan racing is that you got to know those obstacles to really excel, because one will set you back a long ways if you get the penalty. So good on you. And I'm sure a lot of our listeners don't know that story, but it's a great story, and it's a great series to get involved with. It changed my life. But it takes a lot of grit and determination to move beyond that particular industry, Spartan racing, and go on and do other things that you're doing now, because you were at the top of your game there. So I'm interested. What made you decide, to continue to pursue these sports? Was it just been a natural graduation from one thing to the next?
Kind of. Not to sound like narcissistic or not to be a good sport, but I have this drive in me that I want to be the best at the sport I'm doing. And even if I don't become the best or better than other people, I know at which point I can't do anything more on my level to get better, and I'm not going to improve anymore. And I find that, like with cycling, when I was a cyclist, the people I used to bike with, they're still biking. Like even Lance Armstrong, he still is biking. That's his pretty much his number one sport still. Mm-hmm. And for me, I don't have that in me where when I reach a point where I don't think I can get any better, I just get kind of bored and I think, what else can I try? I mean, literally 3 or 4 years ago after Mount Marathon, I got a challenge to get in the boxing ring, and I found myself doing that semi-professionally for 5 boxing matches. And I learned how to box from a good boxer, and I was good enough to not get killed in that first round, but my endurance was quite superior to the younger guys I was fighting, and I was able to win my fights because I could take a few punches. But then once the exhaustion hit in, that 22-year-old boy turned into a 12-year-old boy type thing, just because they were so out of shape. So that was a kind of a cool pursuit. But same thing with boxing. After a few years, it's like, okay, that's enough. I'm getting to a level where I'm just going to start getting my head bashed in by guys who are superior, and I wasn't interested in that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the fun part about it. I've dabbled in everything from ping pong to extreme pack rafting, going down Class 5 rivers, and you get to a point where you say, okay, that was a good. I've kind of ridden the bull, and that was good, and I'll say that was enough, and I'll move on.
Yeah. So a quick question, sidebar here. You mentioned you got to race Spartan on their dime and travel the world and do something you never thought you could do, and that's be paid to be a professional athlete. Has that been your career, or do you have a day job that you have to juggle all these sports around?
I would say that almost word it the other way. A lot of people say, do what you love what you do. I kind of have a job, and my career has been a roofer. I have a commercial roofing company, and I kind of would argue at the very surface, I almost do the opposite. I do what I don't like to do maybe for the job, roofing. There's days I don't want to get down on my hands and knees and scrape crap out of a drain and clear a pipe or something weird. But then that gives me the time, the resources, and the freedom to actually then pursue the things I really want to do 100% and be fully vested into it. I'm lucky enough now that as I'm older, I can get away from roofing, and I'm hoping to, I trade in the market and I do some other things that are kind of more fun to do. And so I'm not locked into any specific job right now. So that makes it nice. Yeah,
absolutely. And family life?
I've got 4 kids, and they're amazing. They're old enough now too, which makes it fun because I've been there, done that too, as far as the raising the baby thing. So that's pretty awesome. But I have a 20-year-old boy, and then an 18-year-old daughter, and a 14 and a 10-year-old daughter.
Yeah, awesome. And the reason why I ask those questions is because I want to hear about this story that I saw on Instagram, and I want the details on it. But I want just a little foundation of who you were, because I think the things that you've accomplished already and the things you're chasing after are so incredible to think about. Not only as just as a human doing that, if that's all you did, but the fact is you have you're a roofer, and you've got a family, and you've got all these other obligations on top of that. So let's talk about what I saw on Instagram. And your first picture you posted was just bloodied up shins. And you had a brief story on there, and it was compelling enough to go, okay, there's a story here. And then you posted something else. I think it was yesterday. You gave a few more details about the guy that saved your ass. Tell us what the event was, why you did it, what led up to it, and then let's go through the event itself.
So the event is almost maybe the embarrassing